Welcome back to another FPL video. Today we're going to be discussing all about the premium midfielders in FPL. Who is the best one? Are they worth a transfer in? Who's got the best fixtures? And all about what I think is going to happen with the next 4 weeks with the premium midfielders. And discussing as well, is it worth using transfers on them? Or is it worth stacking up transfers potentially going into the fixture swing in game week 12. So if you enjoyed the video, do drop a like down below. It helps the channel out very much. And do subscribe to the channel as well if you are new around here. If you want to see daily FPL content, then this is the place to be. Right then, so we're going to start by discussing Saka, Palmer and Mo Salah. Now, there's a lot of chat about which one's the best one, who should I go for. A lot of people are thinking I'll get rid of Salah and move down to a Saka or Palmer, hence why they've had a lot of transfers in. Palmer's obviously very popular with his hat-trick, with his 4 goals that he scored against Brighton that made him very popular. As well as that, Mo Salah is one that's a lot of people are getting rid of after a couple of disappointing performances and not many points. But and then Bukayo Saka as well, I need to speak about, who got 2 goals. Is a potential injury doubt, but I think he'll be absolutely fine for the game from what we're seeing. So all 3 players definitely have their plus points, but as you can see, all 3 of them do not have the best run of fixtures. We'll start off with Mo Salah, as he is the most expensive. A lot of people are getting rid of Mo Salah at the moment, which I understand to an extent, but I still think he's a great option, to be honest. I mean, if you're doing him as part of maybe like a 2 transfer move, you may be moving him down and moving somebody up elsewhere, then fair enough. But if you're just taking out Salah and bringing in a Palmer or Saka, to be honest, if I was in that situation, I wasn't doing any other moves, my move was just Salah to Palmer or Saka, I'd just be sticking with Salah, to be honest, for another week anyway. He's got Chelsea at home, which it's not the worst fixture. It's not obviously a good fixture in the slightest for Liverpool, but there's a lot worse fixtures. For example, I think Palmer, Liverpool away, I mean, obviously they're playing each other, but I think it's harder playing at Anfield for Palmer than what it is for Salah playing at Anfield against the Chelsea side, which have conceded goals so far this season. Liverpool's defence, I know they've had an easier run of fixtures, but their defence has been very, very solid. So between the two, if I was picking between them two for this one fixture in isolation against each other, I'd back Salah personally, but maybe a lot of people back Palmer, hence why they're going for him, which is fair enough. And then Bukayo Saka has got undoubtedly the best fixture in game week 8 playing against Bournemouth, but then beyond that, it is a difficult few games for Arsenal after that. So as you can see, all 3 have got very difficult fixtures. If I was to say who's got the best fixture out of fixtures in the next 4 out of the 3 players, I'd honestly say it's Mo Salah. He's got the hardest game against Arsenal away, which is very difficult. But the other 2 games, Brighton, you can get goals against, we've seen so far this season. Same with Aston Villa as well. They've only kept 1 clean sheet in the Premier League, and that was against United last game. And Chelsea haven't kept too many clean sheets either. So to be honest, 3 out of those 4 fixtures for me, you'd argue that Mo Salah has the best fixtures out of those other 2 players. Obviously not the best fixtures, but decent enough. As for Cole Palmer, I mean, there's a lot been made about he can score a lot of goals against whoever it is. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. He scored against a lot of the big 6 sides, which is a fair argument, but that doesn't still matter that it does still matter for me that he's playing Liverpool away. I think if it was a different fixture or Chelsea at home, I think that's all right, but Liverpool away is probably the toughest fixture right now for an attacker to go to, in my opinion. So it is a very difficult game, that is. Beyond that, honestly, I don't think they're too bad. I think Newcastle and Man United are 2 decent enough fixtures for Cole Palmer. I think they're good, but then Arsenal at home. So you'd say 2 of Palmer's 4 are fixtures that you don't really want. Well, I mean, you're obviously going to play him if you have him, but you're not. Those are like 2 of the worst fixtures you can basically get. Salah's only got 1 of them. As for Bukayo Saka, I'd say he's got 1 of them as well. Liverpool at home is a difficult enough fixture, but I still do back him to do something in that, to be honest, or at least get something if Arsenal do get a goal. Saka's generally involved. As you've seen, he's been at the heart of everything that Arsenal have done really so far this season. So Saka's still good. Across them 4 games, he's got the best fixture in game week 8 out of the lot. Newcastle away, I don't think it's bad in 10. And Chelsea away isn't absolutely awful, but it's still not an ideal fixture. So as I say, all 3 have got difficult games. And for me, the best fixture-wise, the best for me is Mo Salah out of those. Then I'd say it's Bukayo Saka, and then 3rd would be Cole Palmer for me. So that's why if you have a premium already, I wouldn't be rushing to get another one in. We're going to be discussing the 2 other premiums in a second, but these are the 3 that are being the most talked about right now. And honestly, with Mo Salah, I'd just stick with him. Unless you're doing it as part of, let's say, a 2 transfer move where you might go down to a Saka or a Palmer, then upgrade elsewhere. Then for me, that's absolutely fair enough. But in isolation, I wouldn't even make a move across them. Whichever one you've got, I'd just stick with, to be honest, because I think they've all got hard fixtures. There's not a lot between the fixtures. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of points between these 3 players either in the next few weeks, personally. Now I want to discuss the 2 differentials. Now, these are Foden and Son, who aren't being talked about really at all, to be honest. Considering their fixtures are a lot better than the other 3 players I've just mentioned in Saka, Palmer and Salah. Foden and Son do have the best fixtures. Now, Son has had a bit of an injury. He looks like he'll be back ready for game week 8, which is good. But he's putting your trust in a player, hasn't been fit for the last few games. And Spurs, Spurs have been very good going forward, but Son's been indifferent. He's had games where he's been really good and games where he's been not so good. He's been a bit of a strange player to watch, and he's a bit of a strange player to own in all fairness. Whenever people own him, he seems to be he gets a haul when you don't have him, and then when you do have him, he does absolutely nothing. That's how it feels like when you own Son. I've been a Son owner for a few years in FPL anyway, but you can't even argue with Son's fixtures. It's a great run of fixtures, really. West Ham at home, Palace away, Villa at home, and Ipswich at home. 3 of the next 4 at home. If Son's going to be playing, can he outscore Palmer, Salah, and Saka? Absolutely, he can with them fixtures. And as I say, Spurs have been good so far going forward this season. As a massive differential, I'm not looking at it myself because, as I said, I'm not really going to be making any premium midfield transfers. I'm not planning on anyway. Son could very well outscore all 3 of them, and he's massively gone under the radar, just due to the fact that everybody's talking about the other 3, and rightfully so, to be fair. But Son, with him being injured and that, I probably wouldn't go near him yet, but as a punt, honestly, for a few weeks, he could definitely outscore them 3, as I say. As for Phil Foden, he's struggled so far this season to really get a number of games under his belt properly and get a good number of minutes, but you'd say out of those next 4 fixtures, him and Son are so far clear, fixture-wise, than Saka, Palmer and Salah. And Wolves away, Southampton, them next 2 games. If Foden's going to start both of those next 2 games, those are 2 absolutely amazing fixtures. So there's a differential again. Phil Foden could be an amazing shout. And then beyond that, Bournemouth and Brighton are very good fixtures. So Phil Foden is definitely one to keep an eye on. But both of these 2 just aren't being spoken about at all, because all the chat is about Salah, if you're only maybe moving him down to a Saka or a Palmer. And then Saka and Palmer are getting mentioned loads as well. So I think Foden and Son maybe need to be discussed about a little bit more. Not a wild card. If I was in a wild card, honestly, going for a Foden or Son as a differential wouldn't be a bad shout for me at all. So now moving over to the predicted points over the next 4 game weeks. Here is all the 5 players that we've got. Foden, his data is slightly skewed, which I'd imagine is the reason why, because he hasn't got a proper run of minutes, as I said before. That's probably why he's quite low, because for me, if Foden's playing, if he's starting at least 3 of them 4 games, I think he'll get quite a lot of points, to be honest, but it's just a risk with Foden. Same with Son, with him kind of coming back from injury, so that's the main reason that puts me off those 2. But, as you can see, the first player is Mo Salah with a predicted points of 24.2, so far clear of Cole Palmer in second. So he is really predicted to do well, Mo Salah. And I did say before, out of those 3 players, I think he has got the best fixtures in Chelsea and then Arsenal away, then Brighton at home and Villa at home. And honestly, 3 of the 4 fixtures, the 3 home games aren't too bad at all. And I'd back Salah to do something in them games. And you wouldn't even put him past him to do something against Arsenal, to be honest, as well. So Salah is someone that's, I think he's been transferred out. Obviously, been transferred out a lot. And I think, to be honest, it's not really the right decision. If you had him, I'd just stick with him, to be honest. As for Cole Palmer and Saka, it's pretty close between the 2, to be honest. It's 20.6 for Palmer and then 19.9 for Saka. I do think Palmer is the better option than Saka in the long term. Fixtures, as I said, is slightly better for Saka, but I'd rather, for me personally, in my team, I'd rather just own them both if I was to make a decision. But if I had to choose one, I would be choosing Palmer over Saka. I'm saying that I do have Saka in my personal team and not Palmer, but is it worth a transfer across from Saka to Palmer? For me, it's not worth a transfer across, if especially next game week as well, when you've got Saka against Bournemouth away, Palmer against Liverpool away. You'd much rather have Saka for that game. But then beyond that, maybe a transfer across from Saka to Palmer isn't a bad idea, because you'd say the next 2, Arsenal playing Liverpool and then Chelsea playing Newcastle. It's a much better game then for Chelsea. So Cole Palmer, I think, it's probably justified that he is slightly higher than Saka, but as I said before, I don't think there's going to be a massive amount in points between these players, unless something drastic happens where Cole Palmer goes and bags a load or whatever. But I don't see it happening. I don't see a lot of points being between these 2 players. And as a transfer in, for any of those 3 players in Salah, and especially Palmer and Saka, I absolutely wouldn't be rushing to bring them in. I just don't see, with the fixtures in line, it's just not, for me, it doesn't justify moving across them or swapping between players. I just think whoever you have, you stick with. Beyond that, from Game Week 12, there's definitely another discussion. The fact that Palmer's fixtures get a lot better, Saka's fixtures get a lot better. So then, for me, it's kind of a double up then between Palmer and Saka if they're both still fit by Game Week 12. Then, as I said, the fixtures turn for those 2 teams, then absolutely, they are transfers in. But with them running 4 fixtures, would I justify transferring in any of those 3 players for the 3 most predicted points? I'd probably just stick with what I've got, to be honest. As for Son, he's on 17 points, which again, it might be skewed slightly with, him being injured and that, but 17 points over the next 4 game weeks isn't ideal for someone with them fixtures and that kind of price if he was to get that many points. But I do think Son will do quite well when he's back in that Spurs team, and Spurs are firing at the moment. He definitely has the potential. But then the thing with Son is, you think about it, you've got Brennan Johnson for like 3 million cheaper or 2.5 million cheaper, and he could be equally as dangerous over the next few weeks. With the form that Brennan Johnson's been in, honestly, I don't think it's a question. I think you'd just much rather go for Brennan Johnson and save the extra 2.5 million to spend elsewhere. That's what puts me off Son. And as for Foden, it's just his minutes really. It's always a bit of a worry with how many options City have in that attacking third. And then as well, I've already got 2 City players in my personal team. You probably have a City defender, Enrico, Lewis or Gvardiol, and then you also have Haaland as well. So you probably have 2 City players. The question is, would you want to go for that triple up for them next 4 fixtures? I would say as a gamble, I do like it. I think it's a good choice, but it's just for me, Foden worries me with them minutes, and that he hasn't really got going so far this season 100%. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Which premium do you have? Do you have 2 of them, or do you just have 1? And drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.